Hello and welcome back, all four of you. My name is Pilot Merchant, and is it just me, or do video game movies kinda really suck? And no, I'm not talking about things like Bandersnatch, that was perfect. Ideally, I mean films like Silent Hill and Tomb Raider and the Mario Bros film. Out of all the VG films I watched whenever I was a kid though, there was one that stood out a little bit more than the others. Now, for the uninitiated, Mortal Kombat is a video game series that started out in an arcade cabinet all the way back in 1992. Almost immediately, the game was a household name, sometimes because the children really loved it, and others because the parents really didn't. 29 years later, honestly, nothing much has changed, other than the fact that kids are more interested now in Friday Night Funkin' and Fortnite. In 1995, New Line Cinema, the rights holder for the film, released their very own cinematic interpretation of the story. Now, at the time that the film came out, we didn't really have a story to kind of look at, to compare and contrast it, so the film just tried to do their best on structuring something logical together. The story in itself is fine, but the cinematic side of everything, that's what we're here to look at today. But before we get started with that, if you enjoy music, bad films, and cracking jokes, then please consider subscribing. I upload every Friday, and also I am a very small channel. I really need the help. Without any further ado though, let's go ahead and get started with Mortal Kombat. After a very intense musical opening filled with synth, electric guitars, and screaming people, we watch as two dudes are fighting on top of some sort of temple. Shang Tsung, the dude in the leather jacket, wins the battle after breaking the other guy's back, and then just starts talking to the camera.
Your brother's soul is mine. You will be next.
Wait, so did none of that happen, or was it some sort of telekinetic vlog? Your brother's soul is mine. Also, please like and subscribe to my channel. So Liu Kang, the brother of the now dead dude, wakes up from his weird dream thing in a super green room. He then gets out of bed and slowly makes his way to his dresser to reveal a loving message from Grandpa. Brother dead. Come home. You can really tell how much he cares. Now naturally, because of the way that cinema works, you would expect the next scene to have something to do with Liu going home, or finding more information out about his brother's death, or something like that. But instead, we just jump over to a new scene. We watch as Special Agent Sonya and Jax lead a raid into a drug den because they're looking for an underworld boss named Kano.
I trust one person on this planet, Jax. You're talking to him.
I'm pretty sure that goes directly against everything the agency teaches, but okay. As Sonya makes her way to Kano by hurting innocent people for no reason, we watch as Kano talks to Shang Tsung about leading Sonya to the docks. Kano and his weird eyes start saying some weird shit about Sonya, and so Shang threatens to stab a bitch. Kano sneaks out of the office, and Sonya starts getting shot at by one of Kano's goons. How did nobody get shot? I mean, surely he's got to be aiming at the bloody sky or something. After dodging all of the shots, somehow Sonya hits the dude with a shell and it launches him through the office window. Sonya then starts to interrogate this dying man very forcefully. I mean, granted, he's wearing body armor, but listen to him.
Where's Kano?
He's clearly not okay. Similar to the scene before, we cut from the interrogation to Johnny Cage walking into an aeroplane hangar. He makes his way up to a bunch of dudes dressed in suits and then asks if they'd be interested in dancing. This triggers a fight to commence, and Johnny has no problem knocking every last one of the guys down. Well, everyone except this dude.
This is where you fall down.
Yeah, so it turns out this isn't even a real fight, it's just a cutscene for a movie. Johnny storms off back to his makeup area because he's not happy with the way production is going. When he gets back to his cast chair though, someone by the name of Mr. Boyd is already sitting in it. Ultimately, Johnny seems pleased with the presence of Boyd, whoever he is, and they start talking a bit about how the media says that Johnny isn't a real martial artist. Boyd suggests to Johnny that he should participate in a martial arts tournament that's being held in Hong Kong, and Johnny decides to opt into it. Boyd leaves the info with Johnny before he takes off, but when he reaches the car park, we see that Boyd turns into Shang Tsung. Finally getting back to Liu, he's riding up to his old temple on a ferry boat to meet with his grandfather. After a brief segment of them getting reacquainted, they head over to the spot where Liu's brothers died. I'm pretty sure his name is Chin, but I honestly have no idea. He's just another made-up character, so Yeah, no idea. After taking a second to mourn Jin, we cut over to an assembly where the question of whether or not Liu should actually represent his Shaolin Order in the tournament has been raised. They end up asking Liu why he wants to fight, and he simply says it's to avenge his brother. Not liking that answer though, the monks have him tack on an extra bit about saving the world and all that, even though he probably doesn't care. Just then, a booming voice is overheard and the monks fall silent. The voice belongs to that of Lord Raiden, god of lightning. Given the appearance of a god, all the monks immediately fall to their knees out of respect, but Liu decides to confront Raiden face to face, asking why he didn't step in to save Chin. Raiden plays the no you card and proceeds to shit talk Liu, and eventually Liu has enough of the verbal abuse and just kinda says that he's gonna be the one to represent the order of the monks with or without their blessing, then storms off. We're now in Hong Kong. While Johnny is just trying to figure out where he's at and where to go, he ends up running into a dude named Art Lean, who is not in any of the games, and so naturally he's probably not gonna make it very far. After their brief convo, Johnny tries to pay Liu to bring his bags onto the ship, and Liu responds in the only acceptable way.
I got it.
Good.
Sonya and Jax are watching from a distance to stay undercover while searching for Kano. Eventually they do spot Kano, and soon after a creepy ass boat pulls up to the dock for boarding. Kano starts to board the ship and Sonya gets on the boat after him to follow. Johnny sees Liu on the boat and starts to confront him about the whole bag thing, but then gets cut off by Sonya, who's demanding to know where Kano is. Johnny then decides that even though there is currently a gun being pointed at his head, that this would be a great time to start flirting. Sonya gives up on getting info from him and then goes sneaking around the boat's interior for Kano. Instead of finding Kano though, she finds Shang Tsung just kinda hanging out in the dark dank belly of the boat. Liu and Johnny come out of nowhere to assist Sonya, but she insists that she doesn't need any backup. Well, that is until Sub-Zero and Scorpion come out of their closets ready to fight them. Right before they all throw down though, Raiden comes out of nowhere to complain about Shang's dudes trying to fight Raiden's dudes because the tournament hasn't started. Shang apologizes about the situation and Raiden does a teleport after telling his dudes to follow him.
Come with me.
Bit like... to where? As the GGs walk back onto the deck of the ship, Johnny keeps asking a bunch of questions about what's going on. Raiden then appears out of nowhere and answers all of the questions. He also explains to them that it's important for them to win the tournament or Earth will literally be invaded and then destroyed. Despite the seriousness of this situation, Raiden finds it quite funny.
The fate of billions will depend upon you. Sorry.
Eventually they make it to port and all the passengers disembark on small rowboats towards the shore. As the GGs make their way to shore, Sonya attempts to call for backup on her emergency phone, but it doesn't really work. When they reach port, Johnny has a fun time trying to carry all of his bags and Liu won't answer any of the other two's questions for some reason. After making their way up a shit ton of stairs, they arrive at some creepy hallway thing. Liu Kang and some lady have a staring contest and Shang tells this godforsaken abomination to watch over the lady. Now considering the fact that this is a special event and a lot of people are about to die, they are actually throwing a feast, like a really nice, really big feast for everybody to just eat as much as they possibly can and possibly want to, because, you know, not everyone's gonna make it, and it's being thrown by the bad guys. I don't know, I just think that's really nice of the bad guys to do. Shang then instructs Sub-Zero to come in and show everyone a demonstration of Mortal Kombat with some random dude. Though, I'm not entirely sure if this guy gets it because he's just fighting the air. Inevitably, Sub-Zero kills him, and for some reason, Art is the only one freaking out about the now dead dude. Sonya sneaks off to go find Kano because that's her only personality trait, and Johnny and Liu sneak off with her because that's their only personality trait. They eventually do find Kano and watch him as he's feasting with Prince Goro, who looks like that Jesus Christ! As Goro and Kano are talking, they eventually start talking about power dynamics, and Kano brings up how although he's a disgusting slob of a man, that he is also an underworld boss. Naturally, Goro doesn't believe him, but Shane comes in and confirms the story. The GGs then decide it's about time that they take off, so they leave thinking they weren't noticed, but they most certainly were. They start to make their way back to the temple, but find that the path has somehow changed. Thankfully for them, however, the lady from earlier makes an appearance and they start to follow her in an effort to escape. At the end of the path they're on, they find themselves in the same place where Kano and Goro were just eating. Suddenly though, they get attacked and a fight starts up. The GGs of course win, and Raiden pops up out of nowhere to congratulate them on that win. He then takes some time to answer any and all questions our trio has so far and wishes them luck in their fights. The next day, Shang has everyone gathered on the beach and tells them that from that moment on, the tournament has begun. Now both Liu and Sonya's matches aren't really that interesting for the sake of commentary or review, so we're going to be going through them. I'm just not going to be saying too much about it. Liu is instructed to fight some dude with dreads and wins the fight, and then Shang just kind of steals the dude's soul and whispers
Fatality.
to himself. Sonya shows up to her match later on, and to her surprise, she's scheduled to fight Kano. She then unsurprisingly wins the fight and then kills Kano herself. Unlike Liu and Sonya's fights, Johnny's it's interesting, but for all the wrong reasons. So Johnny is taking a walk through the forest for some reason, and then Scorpion attacks him out of nowhere for some reason, and then he pulls Johnny into a hell portal for some reason, and man, I honestly have no idea what's happening at this point. Johnny starts doing some acrobatic stuff on an old wood thing, but moments later, Scorpion literally breaks it with a kick, so it shouldn't have held his body weight. Scorpion then goes to kill Johnny with the good old flamethrower through the mouth trick, but Johnny manages to find a mighty conveniently sized shield just lying beside him. After Scorpion's failed fatality, Johnny slices his skull open with the shield, and Scorpion blows up. Moving on then, Liu goes back to the beach to have his next fight, and he's very surprised to see that the person he's fighting is actually the lady from earlier, aka Princess Katana. They begin their fight, but every time Liu gets her into a hold, she just kind of stops for a second and whispers some weird stuff into his ear.
To win your next match, use the element which brings life.
Shang eventually tells Katana to stop whispering in his ear, but she doesn't listen, so he calls the fight and gives Liu the win. Later on into the night, Liu walks into a weird cold water ice room thingy and is confronted by Sub-Zero. They start fighting, and for a minute there, it's not looking too hot for Liu. No pun intended. Until he remembers one of the weird things Katana told him.
Use the element which brings life.
He then grabs a bucket of water and slings it at Sub-Zero, in which the water then freezes and stabs him through the chest. As weird as she is, she knows her stuff. And with the end of that fight, there are no other competitors. Well, other than Prince Goro, of course. Goro gets all excited and then goes on a montage of beating nameless opponent after opponent until he finally steps into the ring with our definitely not going to make it friend Art Lean. Art then does his best to take on Goro, but of course doesn't win. Shortly after the fight, Raiden meets up with the GGs because one member of their crew is no longer During their convo, he starts to talk to them about the things holding them back from success mentally. Liu Kang is too obsessed with revenge, Sonya is afraid of cooperation, and Johnny is apparently afraid of fighting. Now, I don't know about you guys, but if I was pulled into a portal by a hell demon to fight him to the death, I don't think I'd make it. Johnny immediately proves this notion wrong by demanding to fight Goro himself. Shang Tsung agrees to the match, and the next day, Johnny and Goro meet up for their death battle. So what could Johnny possibly do that would help him defeat the Goliath of a being named Prince Goro, who has vanquished every single foe who has dared to stand before him? Yeah, that'd probably work on me too. So after Johnny's nut shot, he then runs off to a cliffside. Eventually, Goro catches up to him and Johnny just sort of pushes him off the side of the mountain. Even though Johnny stands victorious, there's no time to celebrate because Shang Tsung is currently in the process of kidnapping Sonya, demanding that she's the one to fight him. Liu and Johnny go to stop him, but Raiden intervenes, saying that they're not ready to go to Outworld yet. After a short discussion with them though, they manage to convince Raiden to let them go and he wishes them good luck.
Good luck. They'll need it.
Well, that's not ominous, is it? Now, considering the fact that Johnny and Liu have no idea where they are in this terrifying hellscape, they just agree to head towards the conveniently placed tall-ass tower in the background. On the way there, however, they're jumped by the abomination from earlier, though Liu has no issue defeating the ugly little shit. One dizzy camera transition later, we're finally at the tower, where we catch up on Shang and his creepy cult. Suddenly, Johnny, Liu, and oh yeah, Katana is here now too, reveal themselves, and Liu demands to fight Shang himself. Shang agrees to the match, and they fight for roughly 10 minutes. Damn. Liu does eventually defeat Shang with a weird red 2-punch thingy and releases all the souls that Shang stole over time, including Chin's. Liu and his brother catch up for a minute, and now we're back on Earth. But oh no, there's a big bad baddie in the sky demanding their souls, and now the movie is over. These films never seem to have a proper ending, do they? Now, the film in itself is really entertaining, and there were quite a few moments in the writing that just had me laughing out loud. A good example of that being that scene that I showed you where Liu literally just throws the bag into the water. There's just loads of those in the film, and I love them. Along the lines of the story, most of the time it was really easy to follow. The only thing that sucked about it was the transitions, because at the beginning of the film, you'd go through for the first 5 minutes of the film and you jump from character to character to character, from place to place to place. And literally those first 5 scenes, you know, whenever we're talking about Qin and Shang Tsung fighting to the death, we're talking about Liu Kang waking up in his bed, talking about Sonya and Jax looking for Kano, and we're talking about Johnny Cage, and then we could go back to Liu going to his monastery. That's all in the first 5 minutes of the film. These scenes are lasting maybe 30 seconds apart from each other, and it's not flowing at all. For videos like the ones I make, that's okay to do, but whenever it comes to a cinematic production that takes at least a year and a half to create. This should be fixable. This shouldn't be too big of a problem. The audio sounded fine, the effects were fine for the time period, the score was okay. I mean, sometimes it didn't really fit the vibe. Usually that had to do something with the fights. Like if you look at the fight at the very end of the film where Liu and Shang Tsung are fighting each other, eventually the Mortal Kombat theme song starts playing over it, and just, it doesn't fit at all. It doesn't work. All in all though, I think the film was a very, very fun watch. I very much enjoyed revisiting it, and if you ever want to just see something dumb and fun and it's gonna make you laugh either because of how ridiculous the cinematic parts are or just the funny writing, this is a good thing for a rainy day. So if you want to watch this, it is available on YouTube for like $3, you know, so go watch it, go treat yourself. Anyways though, that's all from me today. If you enjoyed the video, please consider leaving a like on the video. It helps me a lot more than you'd know. If you have any suggestions for any films or shows or anything that you want me to commentate and review over, just leave them down in the comments. I am a small channel, I will get back to you. And last but of course not least, if you'd like to see more videos like this one, please consider subscribing. Like I said before, I upload every single Friday and I am a very small channel. I really need the help. And yeah, that's it for me. So thank you again for watching, and I hope you have a lovely day. Those were $500 sunglasses, asshole.